Hello. Yeah. So welcome to Science and Tech Current Affairs of this week. First topic is this EXO minor. Now, this comes from NASA. Yeah. So, you see, what is this? Fairly easy. So, what happens? Now, see this. This is a deep learning AI model developed by NASA. So basically, this is a deep learning. If you remember deep learning, what was it? So it used to be artificial intelligence, then machine learning, and within machine learning, it used to be deep learning, correct? So this is a deep learning model by NASA. Now, EXO minus is not some satellite or anything that is going. So basically, the main thing here is about the analysis of whatever data comes through. Now, so first thing is it detects exoplanets using space telescopes data and serves as the advanced successor to the earlier EXO-minor system. So there was an EXO-minor system earlier also. Now we have the plus plus version of it. Now see what it does. So it is detecting data from space telescopes. So space telescope data it is getting and it is serving advanced and it is doing analysis using artificial intelligence. So this is what is happening now. Now, so basically this is what is happening now. Recently released as open source, it promotes transparency and large scale scientific collaboration. So very simple. So now what they have done recently, why it was in news, so they have made this completely open source. So whatever data is now being collected via space telescopes or whatever, now all the analysis that is being done by EXOMINER is now available to everybody around the world. So different scientists can come up with their own observations and all that. This is why it is in news. Now, next, how does EXOMINER detect exoplanets? Now, see exo and minor. Why the name is like this? So exo means what? This is talking about exoplanets or planets that are very far off. Then minors because it is trying to mine or find out those planets. So that's why it is called exo minor. Now, how does it detect exoplanets? And we have to explain its working mechanism. Now see how it works. So it is based on transit method. What is transit method? See, where continuous monitoring of stellar brightness reveals periodic dips when a planet passes in front of its host star. Now, some difficult terms. Actually, the concept is very simple. So, let's say this is a star. Correct? Now, this is your telescope. This is my telescope that is observing this star. Right? Is doing continuous observation. Now, let's say a planet passes by. A planet passes by here. So basically, this planet comes here, okay, and then goes away. So basically, this star is very big, releasing all the light towards this telescope for you to observe or for the machines to observe. Now, what will happen if there is a planet that crosses here? For how much time the light had to bend? What are the changes that are brought to it? Brought to the light that is coming from the star towards the telescope, the changes that are brought, based on that, they are able to calculate the mass, size, etc. and guess if there are any exoplanets. Okay, why? Because see, you must have heard of many exoplanets that we have found. They give it name of different scientists also. So like this planet, that planet, all that goes on. But the thing is that of course no rovers or directly going there, correct? So there is no spacecraft that goes there and find those planets. So actually they are using a method like this. Okay, so using this they are able to calculate, or they are able to find out if there is some planet nearby that star. Now, this is called transit method. Because this is in transit, it is able to identify it. Then next thing is that it analyzes stellar light curves using deep learning algorithms to identify transit-like signatures with high precision. Understood? So what it is using? It is understanding the light curves using deep learning algorithms. So whatever is the bending of light, curving of light because of passage of planet, it is observing this or analyzing it using deep learning. That's why that is what ExoMiner++ does. Now, next. So what you need to remember, first thing, ExoMiner does what? Detects exoplanets. How? What is the method? So it is a transit method that is based on what is the changes in the light curves that are coming from distant stars. Understood in one line? Then now this is theoretical, that is what are the key challenges that needs to be addressed. What are the key challenges in exoplanet detection that ExoMiner address? Now, what does it address? So, see, the system that I told you, where there is a star and some planet is passing in front of it, there is some curve in the light that is coming from the star, and based on that you are making predictions that there must be some planet, this, that, correct? Now, let's say there is a star. Now, instead of a planet, let's say a collection of different celestial bodies. Okay, if they pass, or some small celestial bodies passed. Now, because of that also there will be observation by the telescope. Correct. So telescope will see curving of light because of this process also. Now, because of this, what happens? Now, these are of course not planets. These are some random celestial bodies, just volume of gases, this, that. So, because of this, there is a major issue of false positives. So, it's not like it will miss any planet. Missing of planet is difficult. If a planet is in its vicinity, within its range, then it will definitely find the planet because there will be change in curvature of light. But the problem is of false positive. So anything and everything that goes by, it is observed by this satellite as one of the planets passing. Now this is a major issue. Okay, why? Because it feels like, so this is the major issue. Correct. Now, what this deep learning model does, understand that. So basically major issue is false positives such as binary star systems, background celestial objects, and instrument noise that mimic planetary signals. Understood the issue also. Now see, now most of the artificial intelligence models that we have, okay, for this entire process for analyzing exoplanets, so they are like black box AI. Why they're called black box AI? So basically they don't tell you the entire system that they follow. Okay, that is not known to anybody. It is just giving you the results, and that is why you are never very sure, okay, that what might be the reason, or is it giving me the correct data. Now what ExoMiner+ does, so unlike the black box AI systems, it provides confidence scores and explainable reasoning behind each classification. So now it is not just giving you observation that this observation is there and directly giving you the result. Instead, it is giving you the confidence score. That is, how confident is this analysis about the exoplanet being detected. So it will tell you that for this one I am 91% confident, for this one I may be very less confident, so that the scientists who are analyzing can take this into account to how seriously they should be looking at this particular thing. So one is confidence score, and it also gives explainable reasoning. Correct? Like in exams you do now. So let's say in some exam you give some answer. Let's say for a question you say answer is this. Now sometimes the teacher, if he really wants to test you, he will ask you explain it. Okay, because answer you can get from somewhere. Answer may be correct, but without even understanding you can get to the right answer. That's why the teacher asks you that please explain this to me. Now same thing is being done by this AI also. So it just does not give you the results. it also gives you its own reasoning why it came to that conclusion. Now the thing is how AI works. So basically if they give you reasoning properly, they will follow a proper structure for reasoning, and in that way they are able to give more accurate results also. Understood? This you can try with all these different AIs also, that you try to ask him that for everything you have to give reason also. You will see that their results improve. Okay, then they stop blabbering anything. So same thing is happening here also. Now of course here the finding out reasons are much more difficult, but XO minus plus plus is able to do this. Now this improves of course reliability and scientific validation of exoplanet detection. Understood? Simple till here. Now next, what data sets does XO minor plus use, and why is this important? What data it uses? So basically it is trained on databases from Kepler Space Telescope and Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite. So these are the two things it is trained on. Based on this data, it is able to analyze other kinds of data and everything. Now, this enables simultaneous analysis of millions of stars and has led to identification of approximately 7,000 potential exoplanet candidates in test data. So mainly it is analyzing two kinds of data. One is from this Kepler Space Telescope and the other is from TESS. And based on this data, it is able to identify almost 7,000 such exoplanets may be possible. Now, of course, it is giving more and more data analysis and all that. So this is about exoplanets. Now, the next topic is India AI stack. Very important. Talked about in the budget also. Now, see, India AI stack. We had similar stack for different applications. Now we have come for AI stack. Stack means what? Stack means something that is arranged like this. So basically what it will do, it will has an arrangement to cover everything holistically. That is why we call it a stack. Now you remember India stack, it used to be a sequence of APIs. Now we have come up with India AI stack. Now very simply, if you see the stack here, it starts from the bottom. Now what is at the very bottom of AI systems? So what is at the very bottom? First is the energy layer. Why? Because of course to run all the systems, everything, you need energy. So first is the energy layer. This is at the bottom. So here what you will take, you will do initiatives to have more sustainable energy, clean energy, ample supply of energy, all that will be ensured here. This is the energy layer. Then you come to data center network and infrastructure layer. Now if you want to develop AI systems or AI applications, for that you also need a lot of internet, correct? All those supplies and all those networks, layers, all these you would need, correct? Because without this it cannot work. So this is the second layer, that is data centers, that can store a lot of data as well as store, process all of this of data, as well as provide you very fast internet, this is the second layer. Now the third layer is the compute layer. Why this is important? Because if you know that it requires GPUs and supercomputers, then only it will be able to really do processing at a very good pace. So compute layer is all about having more and more compute power or computational power. So this layer will focus on increasing the computational power. Then you come to AI models layer. So AI models layer is what? So what you will have models. For example, Bhashini. Bhashini is an AI model layer. So this does what? This converts most of the AI applications and everything in your native languages. For example, let's say in Hindi, Marathi, Kannada. So it converts everything here. Now, after this, you have the top layer, that is the application layer. This is where, this is what gets to the user. So user, whatever you are using, let's say some AI system, some AI application, so all that is actually application layer. So eventually you will only see this, but for this to be developed in India, to be developed indigenously, to be developed to precisely for our requirement, we need all other layers also that may not be visible to you but are even more important than the top, that is application layer. So India wants to be not just a consumer of artificial intelligence but a producer as well as leader, a global leader in artificial intelligence. So we need to develop in all these layers to eventually lead to the application layer, so that we are able to fulfill all our AI requirements ourselves from bottom to top. Understood? Now let's see, same thing is there. Let's start seeing. Now first is, what is India AI stack? So India AI stack is an integrated AI framework introduced by the government of India. Fine. This is what? This is integrated AI framework. If you have to write 3 words, these are the 3 words. India AI stack is integrated AI framework introduced by government of India. Objective is what? Objective is to democratize AI and enable population scale deployment. Correct? This is what you want. Then moves AI from experimentation to governance delivery across health, agricultural, education and public services. Correct? This is what the aim is, to move AI from just an experimentation. Like, see, now AI is everywhere. Now you accepted that this is the part of the technology, this is the way forward. Just a few years before this, for example, in 2022 December, ChatGPT came. Before that, everybody thought AI as some like some great technology, something that is far off or something that will change this, that. So basically, you just saw it as some experimentation or some very far off thing. Okay. Now, but AI is here. So now we need to move from this experimentation mindset to bring it to governance delivery across the board, because we must integrate artificial intelligence now. This is the need of the hour, even for governance systems. Now, so what are the core layers of India AI stack? So first is application layer, then you have AI model layer, then you have compute layer, data and network layer, and energy layer. I have explained you all of these. Energy layer is reliable and sustainable power backbone. Correct? These 2 words only, reliable and sustainable. Then data and network layer, so basically fiber connectivity. Correct? Optical fiber and all. Then 5G and expanding data centers. Again done. Next is compute layer, GPUs, TPUs. Okay, this is tensor processing units, this is graphic processing units. In one of the lectures I have explained the differences between them. Okay, then supercomputing and shared national infrastructure, this is the compute layer. Then AI model layer, that is AI India centric foundational models for languages and governance, so that the apps or anything that we made are not directly based on, let's say, AWS or whatever foreign systems. Instead, we need to make something that is India centric, because most of India does not speak in either English or even Hindi. Correct? Now, one of the things that was there, that in India, the 80 to 90% of what is used as an internet in India is actually in English, and that is an issue. Correct? Because of that, that means that a lot of people who don't know English are lagging behind or are not able to get the complete benefits of the internet. Now, this will get even exacerbated in artificial intelligence, because it will be completely in one language, that is English. So that is why it is required that we have our own AI model there, so that we can convert it into our vernacular languages. Now, last is application layer. This is the user facing AI tools for service delivery. Understood? So these are the main layers. Now, once you get this, now is what ensures AI sovereignty in the stack. So what ensures AI sovereignty? First, indigenous initiatives such as India AI Mission, Bharat Gen and Bhashini. Bhashini I explained to you, correct? So these are India's AI mission. So basically it talks about that India should become a global leader in artificial intelligence. For that, what all we should be doing. So all that. Now, next is subsidized compute via India AI compute portal. So basically, to give effect to this AI stack, we have taken certain initiatives. So these initiatives are being enlisted here. First is AI mission, Bharat Gen, Bhashini. Then we have India AI compute portal for all these for the second layer, that is the application below the application layer. Then expansion of domestic data centers and semiconductor ecosystem. Here you can know about India's semiconductor mission, correct? So we are developing data centers, semiconductor ecosystem. Then reduces dependence on foreign AI models and infrastructure. This is one of the core missions that we have under India AI mission. That is, we want to decrease our dependence on foreign entities. Now, then, why is India AI stack significant for development? Why is it significant for development? So first, enables AI for public welfare at population scale. This is correct. Now, so India AI stack significant because it is bringing artificial intelligence at the population scale. Then supports language inclusion, rural outreach, and digital governance. Correct. Then aligns AI growth with sustainability and self-reliance under AI for Humanity framework. It's just generic things. So why it is significant for us? Because ultimately there is a term called inclusive AI. So all this initiative is actually for inclusive AI. Okay, we want to include all people or get benefits of AI to all of them. This is the core of it. Then next is chemical parks. Okay, so this is what came from budget 26-27. Now that India AI stack, this is chemical parks, and after this we'll see a topic called biopharma shakti. So these are the three most important ones in the budget. I gave you an overview in the last lecture, correct, of the budget main provisions, this that. Now these three, they have given more and more details, so we'll see them in detail also. Okay, then now chemical parts. Now, where have you heard this term parks? Okay, now you might have heard this children's park and all that, but now you must have heard of, if let's say you are in Bangalore, you must have heard of something called IT tech parks. Then, if you have done your course well, at least of economy, then you must have heard of food parks or food processing parks. Right? So parks are nothing but a place where all these many different industries can come together. Okay, of the same field. So for example, chemical parks will allow many different companies of the same field to develop a cluster like this. Now this is a very helpful that it helps any any sector to achieve something called economies of scale. Correct. That is why you have clusters like this. Like in the north, you have clusters where all the mobile manufacturing and everything is electronics manufacturing is done in India. Then here in Bangalore, you have something called IT tech parks. So these are very good clusters where there is very rapid development of a particular type. So this is what we are developing. For the first time, we are focusing on chemical parks also. That is why it was in news. Now let's see. So what was announced in budget 26-27 regarding chemical parks? So first thing, what was announced? So announced first dedicated budgetary support for chemical parks. Okay. first dedicated budgetary support for chemical parks. Now, 600 crore challenge based scheme. Now, this you need to understand what is this challenge based scheme. So, what they are doing, objective is to support states to establish 3 chemical parks. Now, focus infrastructure creation, not production subsidy. Now see, basically what they will do, they are saying that we will develop 3 chemical parks, not in every state this that, otherwise it will be very small chemical parks and it will not be able to achieve economies of scale. So they are saying that across India, in total we will develop 3 chemical parks. Now, how will you decide that where should those 3 chemical parks be? Now, some people will say Gujarat, because that is from where most of our cabinet is from. Okay, now that is not the solution. So basically this is a challenge based scheme. Challenge based scheme as in, so they are asking the states to give their proposal. Now, states will give their proposal, whatever proposal they want to give, that we can do this entire thing in this much money, this big this big park will be able to develop, this is how we will provide energy. So they will give their entire proposal. Now, the best proposal, or in most cases the lowest cost proposal for let's say the same area, the lowest cost state proposal will be selected, and the top three states will be getting these chemical parks, or will be getting funding to establish these 3 chemical parks. This is called challenge based scheme. Now, so the focus is on infrastructure creation, not production subsidy. So it is not production linked incentive like you learn about PLIs. So this is not like PLIs, that 5% production linked incentive, nothing like this. This is about infrastructure creation. Correct? That is, it is to develop the whole chemical park. Now, what is the difference? Understand. So basically, what government does in chemical parks is this. So in any park, for example, food park, IT tech park, whatever. So in food park, chemical park, government ka kya role hai? What role is of the government? So government actually develops, let's say this is a chemical park. So the government will develop chemical park in such a way that it will provide, let's say, all the water supply, all the drainage supply, drainage or wastewater has to be removed. Okay, then the processing plant that will process all the waste and everything. Okay, then they will provide electricity. Okay, so they will provide proper electricity. They will provide land that is already acquired by the government to establish that chemical park. So land is already with the government. So basically space, what space do you want? So all that on lease. So everything will be provided by the government. So what is government doing here is not establishing its own industry or doing production. The main focus is on developing this entire infrastructure in such a way that now any company can come based on plug and play model. What is plug and play model? So basically any company can come here and establish their office or manufacturing plant here within a few weeks. So they don't need within a few weeks or very less time, because everything is established. So they can just come. There is already space, there is already land acquired, there is electricity, water supply, all these things are managed. So now they just need to come and focus on whatever chemicals they want to produce. So that is their expertise area also. Otherwise, if let's say I have a very good understanding of how you set up a chemical industry, okay, a chemical factory. Now, the problem is to get to that part of establishing a good chemical factory, I have to go through a lot of layers. I have to acquire land, I have to talk with the villagers, I have to see that water lines and everything is proper there. If it is not there, then I'll have to pay, okay, and get that properly. Roads, okay, roads is also an important system. So roads, water supply, electricity may not be proper, so I'll have to have my generator backup, this, that, everything. So all this I have to do first. Then I eventually get to my expertise, that is developing a chemical factory. it is not very effective mechanism. Okay, so this is why government develops parks where everything is done by government and you have to only do plug and play. So you come there, plug it up, and you start playing or start making whatever you want to. Understood? So this is what they want to develop. That is why it is written. This is not about, this is about infrastructure creation, not about production subsidy. Understood? Simple. Then now, what are chemical parks? So what are chemical parks? So planned industrial clusters for chemical and petrochemical manufacture. As I told you, I've used this word a lot, industrial clusters. So planned industrial clusters for chemical processing and petrochemical manufacturing. Now, cluster based, correct? Then plug and play model, already explained, with ready land, shared utilities, logistic supports, and environmental compliance system. So everything is already in place. Now, multiple units operate within shared infrastructure to achieve economies of scale. Already mentioned, if all these units are doing the same thing, then it is much easier to manage it. Also, you will achieve economies of scale, that is, you can produce anything at a lower cost. Understood? Then, what is the objective behind promoting chemical parks? So this is now very simple. Strengthen domestic chemical manufacturing. Yes. Reduce import dependence, improve supply chain. Then enhance global competitiveness in bulk and specialty chemicals. Then move India up in the global chemical value chain. Correct? Very generic. These are the objectives behind promoting chemical parks. So basically, how does this initiative build on earlier cluster based models? How does it develop? So first is plastic parks. Like earlier we used to have plastic park, like we still have shared infrastructure for plastic processing, same for bulk drugs, so common facilities for API manufacturing, similarly for petroleum, and this has demonstrated economies of scale and faster project execution. So in the past also we have seen that this has worked well, so that's why we are doing it for chemical parks also. Then, why is the chemical sector strategically important? Very simple. First thing, it contributes 7% to GDP. Then, sixth, India is the sixth largest globally and third largest in Asia. So we still have potential to grow, and we are already an important player also. Then, supplies critical inputs to our agriculture, pharmaceuticals, textiles, automobiles, and construction. As you know, most of the other industries like agriculture, pharmaceutical, textiles, automobiles, construction, they are very dependent on the chemical industries because these are all based on some kind of chemical. Here fertilizer is a chemical, here chemicals are used to make different kinds of medicine and all, textile, all the colors and every different kinds of cloth also. So most of the cloth that you see now is somehow artificially processed, rayons and nylons and all that, all those textiles. So everything is all about chemicals, and those chemicals are manufactured in these industries. Then this is a core pillar of manufacturing led growth. Understood? Then next topic is biopharma shakti. Now let's see this. What is this biopharma shakti? So the reason is written, positioning India as a global biopharma manufacturing hub. This is the aim. Now let's see. So what is announced? So it is announced that 10,000 crore biopharma shakti program to scale biologics and biosimilars. First of all, understand these terms, biologics and biosimilars. Okay, now see. Yeah. So basically, you understand all these terms. So first term that we need to understand is biopharmaceuticals. What are these? So you understand simple medicines, pharmaceuticals, correct? Paracetamol, amoxicillin, okay? citrazine, all these are different drugs that you take, right? Now drugs are what? Drugs are just mixing of chemicals, and you eat those chemicals or you digest those chemicals. Now those chemicals are released in your body and do something. Now there is another thing that you must have heard of, that is vaccine, correct? That is monoclonal antibodies and use of biological organisms directly, okay, in some or the other form. Now all these are what? So these are not like the normal drugs that you know, that is completely chemical. These actually involve or actually are derived from some kind of living organism or biological organism. This is something that you get from biological organisms. So that is why they are considered something called biopharmaceuticals. That is, they are like medicine, but they have a biological component or they come from a biological organism. That's why biopharmaceuticals. Now these are medicines derived from living cells, such as vaccines, monoclonal antibodies, and gene therapies. So gene therapies. Okay, so these are the things that we are talking about in biopharmaceuticals. Now, understand the next term, biologics. Biologics is what? This is the original complex biological medicines. So, the biopharmaceuticals, now, the original version of them, let's say the first vaccine that is coming about, so it has a very like integrate process of making that vaccine and using that vaccine. So that is actually biologics. Now, there is something called biosimilars. What are biosimilars? So these are highly similar follow-on versions after patent expiry with no clinically meaningful difference and lower cost. So basically, the original one, that is biologics, is much more complex. Okay, now over time, when everybody is using, let's say, a particular vaccine, over time that they will develop something that is very similar in efficacy but not that complex to make, correct? So a very simpler version of this is called biosimilars. Now biosimilars are usually come after the patent's expiry. So once the patent has expired, now the entire process and everything is known to everybody, and they can develop something which is at a much lower cost, and it has very similar clinical efficiency. So clinically it is very similar, it is at a lower cost, but it is much more simpler or much more easily made. Okay, so this is biosimilars. So complex and manufacturing sensitive segment. Now, once you have understood these three terms, now understand what India is trying here. So now let's come back. See, so why this was announced? So India is actually called, is a major pharma manufacturer. So basically we do what? We produce a lot of pharma medicines, now developed by anybody else, but we manufacture a lot of them. Okay, most of it something called the generic versions of them. So once patent of those medicines, those simple pharmaceutical medicines, for example paracetamol, amoxicillin, all these, so we make generic versions of them at a very cheap cost and supply it around the world. That is why India is called the pharmacy of the world. Okay, so this is what we do, this is what we are good at. Now the problem is that now more and more advanced therapies are coming. So instead of using those simple pharmaceutical drugs, we are moving towards more and more biological systems, because though they have much better efficacy. Of course, a vaccine or some monoclonal therapy or some different kinds of genetic therapy has much more wider application as well as more efficiency than some tablet that you take, correct? So that is why we understand that Now again, the same problem will be there, that we are not good at developing pharmaceuticals. Very sadly, we are trying, but in all probability, we may not be that good at producing biopharmaceuticals also. But what we can be again good at is something called biosimilars. That is, once the patents has expired, now like you had the generic version here, we will make biosimilars at a much lower cost with a similar efficacy, and from this again we can make a lot of money, or we can develop our own sector. Understood? So this is why the focus is this, and we are trying to develop it completely in India. Now, so as you can see, 10,000 crore biopharma shakti to scale biologics and biosimilars. Then, so biologics also we want to make, that is the original version of it, and then main focus biosimilar. Then focus on R&D clusters, strengthening CDSCO and expanding NIPER network. This is the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Research. Okay, so this we are trying to expand its network. Strategic push for biopharma self-reliance and global positioning. Now, this is also our aim, that we want to develop our own everything. So we want to develop biopharmaceuticals also, but you know that this will become the main focus point, that is biosimilars. Now, so this is done. Now, what regulatory and institutional strengthening is proposed? So first is that you need to upgrade CDSCO to global standards, okay, with stronger biologics review and pharmacovigilance. Pharmacovigilance means what? So once a drug is released, let's say biopharmaceutical or whatever, once drug is released, so before the release of drug there are all trials, this that. Now after the release of drug also, we should be constantly monitoring the side effects or whatever effects or efficacy that they have. This is called pharmacovigilance. Understood? So this is also our aim, that we develop CDSCO for this. Then establish 3 NIPERs and expand clinical trial infrastructure. Correct? Then build credible high value biologics ecosystem. This is the main aim. Understood? Now, why is biologics strategically important for India? So as you understood, global biologics market exceed 400 billion now and accounts for 30 to 35% pharma value, and this is only going to increase. So already whatever pharma value is there, 30 to 35% is gone here, and we are not very good at it, honestly. So basically we want to be good at it, so as to at least develop many biosimilars and then maybe some biologics also, because ultimately this will increase more and more. So we should be here, otherwise we will be losing our pharma industry, correct, the original pharma industry, and if we don't catch up, then we will be lagging behind. A lot of people will lose jobs, will lose a lot of money. That's it. Then India has 20% global generic share. This is for the pharmaceutical, but less than 5% biologic share. Understood? So we have 20% of that, but only 5% here. So this is what we are trying to develop. Rising NCD burden increases demand for targeted biologic therapies. So non-communicable diseases burden is very high in India, diabetes, hypertension, all those. So for that also biologic therapies are required. So that increases the domestic demand also. Then shift from volume driven generic to innovation led manufacturing. This is our aim. Then what are the major challenges? So high capital cost, long gestation period. This is not as easy to mix two chemicals and make a drug. So it is much more difficult process, will require higher capital cost. Gestation period means very long it takes to make them or to get an understanding of their process. Then limited biologics regulatory capacity and approval unpredictability. So right now we don't have a proper framework, this that. Maybe within this scheme or program we'll develop much more better regulation for biologics. Then limited bioprocessing capability. This is why I was saying that we won't be able to develop many new biopharmaceuticals. Our focus will be on biosimilar eventually. Cold chain dependency and biosafety compliance. This is very limited right now in India. Ethical clinical trials, oversight and biosecurity risk. Now, of course, once you start dealing with biopharmaceuticals, there are also major risk here, not like the chemicals, correct? Because now you're using living things. If you remember, something happened in 2019 and the whole world had to stop. Something they were doing with some biological organisms, some living thing. Okay, now, so what is the way forward? So incentivize biologics clusters and shared manufacturing facilities. Again, same cluster, chemical parks, rings a bell. Then strengthen regulatory science and global credibility. Yes. Then build translational innovation ecosystems, linking academia, startup hospitals, very basic. Then position India as trusted global biologics hub. So very generic. I have taken this directly from the document that they released. It is always very generic. Then last is this SFDR technology. This is solid fuel ducted ramjet. Now, see what was demonstrated by DRDO. So, I have taught you, or I will teach you, ramjet and scramjet engines. So, ramjet and scramjet engines, you remember? Ramjet used to have the outside air. So, first of all, this is both of them work on atmospheric oxygen. Correct? They work on atmospheric oxygen. They take in oxygen and do everything from that. Now, so basically they are not carrying oxidizer. Ultimately, to burn a fuel, you need something called fuel and something called oxidizer. Correct? You need oxygen to burn anything. So fuel plus oxidizer can release a lot of energy, and this energy can be used in propulsion. Propulsion means to push anything forward. Correct? Very simple. Fuel plus oxidizer. Now, some of the older jet propulsion systems would have the fuel as well as oxygen tanks or cylinders with them, and then they will do energy or propulsion. Now, the modern ones like ramjet and scramjet, they have very small amount of mixed oxygen or fuel plus oxidizer for reaching very high speed. Once they reach high speed, they are structured like this and they allow a lot of air to flow. From this air only they get the oxygen or the oxidizer, in other words, and can generate a lot of energy. So they don't have to carry oxygen as such in a large quantity. So this is what ramjet and scramjet does. Now DRDO have recently developed something called solid fuel ducted ramjet. So basically now in ramjet and scramjet, the fuel that is used is actually liquid, but here it will be solid. So it will be solid fuel plus oxidizer will come from atmospheric air, and then again it will produce energy. Now where it will be used is important. So basically this enables long range, beyond visual range, air to air missiles. This is BVRAMs. So basically beyond visual range means when, let's say, you are flying a fighter jet and you cannot see your target. So this is called beyond visual range, air to air. So from air you are sending missiles to another target in air. Very difficult, correct? And that also long range. So this will be instrumental in developing something called BVRAAMs. That is this new solid fuel ducted ramjet technology. Then next, what is this? So this is an air breathing, and I explained you what is air breathing. Then so basically using the atmospheric air, missile propulsion system using atmospheric oxygen instead of carrying oxidizer. Next, burns boron based solid fuel. Now this is a very efficient solid fuel and sustains Mach 2 to 3.8 speeds. So this is the amount of speed it maintains. It maintains this speed throughout the journey, even till the end point. That's why maneuvering and everything is much better. So with solid fuel you get better stability. Correct? Better stable your missile would move. Then provides extended engagement range and sustained terminal energy. Correct? Then next, how does SFDR work? So first is booster ignition. So rapid acceleration to supersonic speed. See, the initial part will be done by fuel and oxidizer mix that it will be carrying. because otherwise the air won't flow inside it, correct? So first it reaches some amount of speed. Once it reaches this supersonic speed, then 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 it starts using its solid fuel and plus the atmospheric air. Then the system starts. Okay, so now supersonic airflow established. Now what will happen? Ramjet mode activates, correct? Now it will start using the air flow. So atmospheric oxygen intake, boron based solid fuel will ignite and controlled combustion. Now what they do? So okay, understand? So what they do? So basically they take this solid fuel, okay, and they get the solid fuel actually has small. Now solid fuel of course will not directly react with oxygen, correct, to produce energy. So basically whatever solid fuel they have, with the solid fuel they have very small amount of oxidizer also. Now this oxidizer is in very small amount carried with this. Now it does partial burning. So it does partial burning and partially burned gas is released. Now this gas is very rich in fuel, or you can call it fuel gas only. So this is like some fuel gas, for example natural gas and all. So similar to that but some different composition. So fuel gas is released. Now fuel gas can react with the oxygen that is coming, or the atmospheric air. So this fuel gas actually reacts with the oxygen that is coming, and then it can produce a lot of energy. This is how the system works. Understood? So control combustion, hot gas valve regulates thrust so as to sustained power flight, maintains thrust for these many seconds, enables extended range. So it gives you extended range because the efficiency is much higher, and it maintains a similar speed throughout its flight, that is 2.8 to 3 Mach. Then why is strategically important? Because it creates no escape zone by maintaining terminal energy, as till the end point you will have energy, because it is very energy efficient. You can carry a lot of fuel, or fuel for a much longer distance. Then enables first look first kill capability. That means the first time that the target sees it, it will get killed immediately, because it will be very difficult to be detected and destroy first. Then enhances air superiority and deterrence capability. Generic. Okay. Then last is this difference table. So ramjet combustion is at subsonic airflow, then scramjet at supersonic airflow. If you remember, this was the difference between ramjet and scramjet. So in ramjet, the atmospheric air is first slowed down to subsonic speeds for the proper reaction. In scramjet, they don't have to do this. So at that very high speed only it reacts. Now in SFDR, that is solid fuel ducted ramjet, they are using subsonic airflow only. Now the good thing is that they are using subsonic airflow and they are trying to maintain a similar speed throughout the journey. Then fuel type, this is mostly liquid fuel. This is also liquid hydrogen, as I explained you. Those are usually liquid. Now here you have solid boron based fuel, which gives it much more stability, and the solid fuels are usually more energy dense. So in a small space, it can carry more energy. That's why it became long range. Then oxidizer is atmospheric oxygen, and atmospheric oxygen. All three of them are air breathing propulsion systems. Now primary use of this is in cruise missiles. This is used in hypersonic vehicles or hypersonic cruise missiles, cruise or ballistic whatever missiles. Then this is used in long range A to A missile, that is air to air missile. This is their main use case. So solid fuel ducted ramjet. This is the difference between them. With this, we have reached the end of the document as well as the end of this class. These were the 5 topics we had to cover. Thank you.